It was a busy weekend for the Flames organization. Catch up on the latest news and moves here on Locked On Flames.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I am your host, Jessica Belmosto, and thank you so much for joining me. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Today, we are going to be talking about the draft. We'll recap that. The draft of centers, as well as 6 more years of Kevin Bahl and the latest developments on Rasmus Andersson and some rumors spreading around the hockey world. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. Let's jump into this because I don't want to hold you up like the NHL Draft. No, in all seriousness, I think that the draft was just too long. It felt like I don't know where to find these statistics. I wouldn't even know where to look, but it felt like the longest first round known to man in any sport. 4.5 hours for 32 picks feels a little egregious. I could watch the Titanic in that time frame. I could also drive from where I live to Boston in that time period. I could have done a lot of things in that time frame. So I feel like the authenticity of the draft, in terms of like the rush and excitement of the draft floor, was sorely missing as well. I think that that's just kind of part of the excitement. Like you see all the tables kind of whispering and talking, and this one's over at that table. Oh, is there a trade happening? And that's the other thing. There were no trades. Part of me kind of wondered if it was taking a little bit in the beginning because they wanted to, if they got word that there might be some trades happening, so they had to, slow it down a little bit before like everything was official and signed off on and what have you. But no, didn't end up happening. I didn't know, like if Rasmus Andersson was going to get traded, and the Flames magically jumped into the top 10 sort of situation. But that didn't happen. But let's talk about the Flames draft. They drafted a lot of centers, which is good. We'll talk about what Craig Conroy thinks of that in a little bit. But overall, the draft experts give the Flames, like, the general consensus is like a B plus, which I think is good. Honestly, with how limited this draft was, especially to address the needs that the Flames have with the 18th and 32nd overall picks in the first round, I think it went fairly well. And what's awesome is that they also got 2 more centers in the second and 7th round. So, there's a lot of players here. I think that Cole Reschny and Cullen Potter are going to be, 2 of your newest prospects that are going to be under a microscope. I've seen some people already update their prospect rankings for the Flames and put Reschny like at number 2 right behind Perek, which is pretty exciting, but also it's been 48 hours. So, I mean, Cole Reschny is an excellent player. He brings the speed. He has the hockey IQ. I'm not worried about him. Naturally, people are concerned because he is 5'11" and Cullen Potter is 5'10". So, I mean, I'm not overly worried. And I think with the Flames this draft, they did get kind of a mixed bag from all over different developmental programs, whether it's the the U.S. National Development Program or the USHL over in Sweden, or the WHL, NCAA, or I guess NCHC, but I'm pretty sure still NCAA hockey. But it's still exciting. I think that there's a lot of hope and expectations for the Flames and their futures. And Craig Conroy he said it himself. I know we talked a lot about centers. It might not be next year. It might be a little bit, but I feel comfortable that we have some really, really good centers coming. They're in the pipeline now. We haven't drafted centers very often in the last, well, quite a few years. Shade. So to actually put some in the pool now, we're very excited. If it wasn't going to happen, that was okay. But to have it happen the way that it did, I think was the right time. I think it was the right time for us, and now we can move forward and feel like every position has some real good young players coming. That's good. One thing I did note from when the players talked with the media and like the little sound clips or tweeted quotes, the Flames organization did a good job of, getting to know them as individuals and not just hockey players. And I think that that's important. Number one, because you have to know what's coming into your locker room. Past controversies, you don't want to do that again. If you can avoid things like that at all costs, you do. So I think getting to know these players and kind of getting a good read on them is a good idea. Because, you don't want another situation on your hands. And I think we joke about culture a lot. And we're going to talk more about culture in a little bit too. But having the right group of guys in your AHL locker room is just as important as your NHL room. So I'm excited to see what happens next and, how everyone proceeds. I wouldn't expect Potter to sign an entry-level contract this year. He may go back to college. I wouldn't be shocked if he did. He started college at 17, which is bananas to me. But yeah, I think that Cole Reschny is, obviously someone to keep an eye on. And I really look forward to what he brings to the Flames. And coming up next, we're going to talk about the 6-year extension for the one and only Kevin Bahl. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you are all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburnt at the beach. I like FanDuel because it is super easy to use, and I can, the same game parlays make the games even more fun, as well as being able to deposit and cash out instantly. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcast, as well as YouTube. We will have a free agency primer up for you Monday evening, because Tuesday's the day. It's going to be super exciting. I'm looking forward to it. I don't suspect the Flames to be busy, but you never know. They could surprise us. Just like they surprised us with a 6-year extension for a left-handed defenseman, Kevin Bahl, who just had a birthday on June 27th. So literally the day before this contract was official. So congratulations, Kevin Bahl. He got a nice raise to $5.3 million or $5.35 million for the next 6 years. And I kind of started to crash out when I saw $5 million for Kevin Bahl, considering Rasmus Andersson makes like 4.8 and Mackenzie Weegar makes what I think like 6.25. But then someone reminded me that 5 million is the new 3 million. So these new contracts that are going to be signed are going to feel egregious. But that's what makes the Mackenzie Weegar contract even more of a steal, because he could probably be making closer to 9 if that extension were to happen today. But he went from playing very sheltered minutes with the New Jersey Devils to having top pairing duties with the Flames, and the expectations for him were low, just because of what you got and saw and what your sample size was with the Devils. And it was kind of, at the time, at least for me, I was kind of like, what's the point of another third pairing defenseman? You have enough of those. What's the point? But the fact that he solidified himself as a top pairing defenseman is good. It's hard work, number one. He went from 17 minutes a night to 21. Which, I mean, like, you just look at that and it's like, oh, it's just 4 minutes, but it's 4 minutes in a hockey game, which feels like a lot longer than 4 minutes, like, waiting for your mac and cheese to cook. I don't know. But I think that he did struggle a bit. It's not surprising. Obviously stepping into a new role in a new organization, you're not going to just drop yourself in and be able to win every battle. And I think for me, my biggest concern was just kind of him and Andersson. It's not just him. Just look lost in front of the net. It's like, as soon as, like, there was sometimes it just felt like they had no urgency around the net, or they were out of position. And it just, the plays didn't read well. Like, you could very clearly tell as soon as the shift started that they were going to get scored on. And that's disappointing, because you don't want that from your top pairing guys. And I hope that next season we see him take more steps forward. I do think that with the impending Rasmus Andersson trade, we will see him playing with Mackenzie Weegar, which will be super cool. I think that both of them could be a killer pairing. They absolutely have the potential to be one of the better pairings in the league, and I'm hopeful that that's what we see. And with the Flames, we've talked a bit about it, but they have their right side set, right, with Weegar, Perek, Brusuich, and then they're working on evening out the left side. So I think 6 years of Kevin Bahl feels like a very long time, because it is. So him and Huberdeau's contract expire at the same time. So in case you're counting down the days for that. But in all seriousness, I think that it feels, it's a good deal. I don't hate it. I think my concern with just like with any contract, is 6 years. Anything over 5, especially for a physical defenseman that is going to lay his body in front of every puck, reminds me of Chris Tanev in a way. I do get a little worried there, but I think Conroy has a much better grasp on things than I do. I'm excited. He seems like a really good guy that works hard, knows what it takes to, be a better player. And he talked about the importance of everyone in the room being willing to compete, and they're not phoning it in. They're not, oh, okay, we're down 3-0. Like, let's pack it up. There's none of that. And to him, that's very important. So I think having someone with a winning mindset mentality is huge, and it goes along with the culture, right? We talk about it so much, and sometimes I feel really bad because it's like all we talk about. But and people, I myself have included, have mocked the importance of culture, but I think it is important to have guys in the room that that are willing to compete when times are tough, when to pull everyone up by their bootstraps and say, we need to go out there and do our job. I think that when Bahl was kind of asked about everything, like why he's excited to be here, like why did he sign, blah, 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 other than being an RFA. The thing is that he mentioned obviously the willingness to compete, but the tight-knit community. And I think that that's very nice, right? It's a very close locker room, and that's something that gets talked about a lot, is not wanting to disrupt or disturb the locker room and the bonds. I mean, no offense, but they took Jacob Pelletier away from Jonathan Huberdeau, so I feel like you can do anything. And moving him was one of like the biggest vibe disturbing like parts of last year in season. But I think that it's a good idea. I like it. I don't necessarily think Andersson starts the season with the team. So I'm going in with the mentality of Bahl and Weegar being your top pairing, and you've got a little bit more work to do there. Filling out the remainder of your defensive group. So we will see what the Flames might have in store, especially tomorrow in free agency. But coming up next, we are going to discuss some rumors surrounding the one and only Rasmus Andersson. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you are subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, and you're following me on Twitter at Just Belmosto. So, the rumors are terrible and cruel, but honey, most of them are true. If you know, you know. But the latest rumblings surrounding Rasmus Andersson is that the Vegas Golden Knights made an offer, and Craig Conroy said nope, wasn't enough, and that's fine. I'm not. I don't want to trade him to Vegas. I'm also not necessarily interested in what Vegas could give us. So there was also an unnamed team that made an offer, but Rasmus Andersson wasn't going to sign an extension there, so they weren't interested in fulfilling that trade, which I get. I mean, teams, I wouldn't want to give up a lot of assets for a rental. I think about, like Carolina. I mean, really, ultimately, they didn't have to give up too much for, oh, they did, for like 3 weeks of Rantanen. But I think that, like Dallas gave up a lot and then extended him. It's the name of the game. So I think that both parties have the right to do what they want. And ultimately, this does have the feelings of the Noah Hanifin trade, but at the same time, I do think that you still may get an Elias Lindholm type haul. Ultimately, Rasmus Andersson is kind of forcing their hand with dictating, where he's going to sign an extension. And that's tough. That is super tough because, if someone gives you a great offer, but he's not willing to extend, like the pieces that you would need of a trade, but you're not, he's not extending. You can't make that happen, and it stinks. But I don't know how I feel. Like, I get it. I don't like it, though, at least for the Flames' perspective here. People have mentioned a few different teams, and Boston keeps coming back in the mix. They could absolutely use a right-handed defenseman, and I think that would be a team Andersson would easily sign an extension with, but I do have to wonder about their assets. I want a first-round pick. I want either Lysell, probably Patra, to be entirely honest, a young center. I'm sure that they would try to dump Johnny Beecher onto the Flames, and that's unnecessary. They don't need to do all that. But regardless of who comes in, they need to move current forwards out. Even with Mantha and Rooney leaving in free agency, there's still so much room that has to be cleared because you need to figure out how you can maximize the potential of your young players, especially, like Morgan Frost. You need to get more out of Joel Farabee. You need to be getting the most you can out of Pospisil and Zary. Pospisil is his contract expires the end of this upcoming season. I don't see the Flames signing him long term, so this is a contract year for him. I just would be very cautiously optimistic because the Flames, regardless of the Rasmus Andersson trade getting done, they need to do something with all these forwards. So part of me is curious. They didn't move Miromanov in season when there was supposedly a deal that was in place, an offer on the table. I don't know why you wouldn't help him pack at that point, but part of me wonders if you could package him and one of your forwards and send them somewhere. I think that there's just a surplus of forwards, and unfortunately, it's not like you can reassign them all to the AHL, number one, because they'd have to go through waivers. Number two, they're not AHL players. There's just not enough room for them. So I guess realistically, the Flames should try to package a forward in the Rasmus Andersson trade. I think that would make the most sense if they can. I know no one's going to take on the Sharon Govich contract, but if there's some team out there that would, and maybe they just trade him to Buffalo. I don't think he has a no trade clause or anything. I don't know. I'm not sold on signing long-term extensions after 1 year of success. I think that's, it's tough, but we will have you updated with the latest news and rumors surrounding Rasmus Andersson and any other potential trades here on Locked On Flames. Ultimately, they're going to need to figure out how to get this done. And I think it needs to be done ahead of this season so it does not carry over into the locker room and create another distraction, just like those 17 pending UFAs did a few years ago. But that'll do it for me here on today's episode of Locked On Flames. Make sure you are subscribed wherever you get your podcast, as well as YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. And I will be back this evening with a free agency primer and any more news and updates. And I will see you later.